Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready to rock? This is the Noble Heretic here, and this video is a reply to Aaron from Last Stand Gamers in his video on fleet formations and tactics in Space Engineers. Specifically, this is a critique of some of the mistakes that I believe he made that were common to all the formations that he demonstrated, and even some mistakes that even the comments section got wrong. Okay, so one thing that I've seen, at least kind of browsing workshops and whatnot, that I've seen there are big mistakes. In fact, this was something that I believe was Aaron's big issue, is not taking into consideration three-dimensional geometry. Now, as a little bit of before I start in, there's a couple of things I want to kind of lay out here. First of all, you might see these ships that I have in front of here are modded. That doesn't matter. What I'm about to demonstrate is actually some principles that I believe can actually be applied universally, no matter what sort of ship that you're working with, no matter the size of the ship that you're working with, and also can be used with as few as 3 or 4 ships. So the fact that I have only 4 ships here, and the fact that they're modded, doesn't really matter for what I'm about to demonstrate here. Now, one thing that I see quite a bit browsing the workshops and whatnot is kind of this getting stuck in two-dimensional thinking, which is understandable. We humans don't deal with 3 dimensions that often, and we walk on relatively flat ground most of the time. So often whenever you see, ships lined up in formation for demonstrations on the workshop or whatnot, quite often you see things like, well, this. All the ships are laid out in a single plane, and that's the problem. But not for the reasons why you would think. So first of all, as you can see, this is kind of a typical, 4-ship formation, relatively V-shaped, not unlike the Vic formation that was used by the British at the beginning of World War II. So yeah, it looks nice, it's nice and neat, but it has some problems. In particular, as you can tell, it's only 2-dimensional, and because of that, the ships can actually block each other's line of sight. Now, one of the comments on Aaron's video was it was actually kind of interesting. It was in relation to a formation that he set up where all the ships were in a ring pointing outwards. He said it was essentially, the intent was as a last stand defensive formation. One of the replies to that formation was that someone said that they would simply attack it from below. That's not actually the best way to deal with this. Here's the reason why. And in fact, I even have some empirical data. There's some empirical data. So let me show you what would happen if someone were to try and attack a flat formation like this from below. So if you give me one moment here, let me go ahead and we will access attack from below. And we'll set it to an enemy, and we'll see what happens. Now, as you can see, from below, every single ship in the formation has firing solution on the incoming enemy. So attacking from below or above, which if you have your ships built right, you will have roughly equal firepower to above and to below. Every ship that's in your formation is going to have a firing solution on the incoming enemy. Which, if there's anything I learned from playing EVE Online, it's that in fleet fleet maneuvers, you want to have every single ship in your formation firing at roughly the same target. That is, unless if you have specialized ships, such as ships that are designed to go only against small ships, or ships that are only designed to go against large ships. Where this sort of formation and where 2-dimensional formations go wrong are actually from the sides. As I had said earlier, these ships can actually block each other's lines of fire. So as a bit of a demonstration here, let's simply go above the formation so you can see it from the top down. And I have 2 different demonstration blocks here. One there and one there. Once again, using your imagination, just imagine that these are incoming ships from an enemy fleet that are trying to attack our formation of red and white destroyers. So, once again, we go in. Let's select the right flank forward. That's the one that you saw in the bottom left of the screen there, and we'll set it to an enemy. and you'll see the problem that we have. Now, as you can see, our front, the ship that's right there, that my crosshairs are right over top of, was partially blocked. You could still see some tracers coming in from its light guns, but its heavy guns were completely being occluded by its wingmate here. So that's going to be a decrease on how much fire you can have on that one target. Now, where things can really go wrong here, if I have things lined up here properly, is directly to the right and left flanks, because you're going to have these problems regardless of whether it's on the left of the formation or the right of the formation. So let's go down to right flank rear, although it's not really rear, it's more just a straight on right flank, and set things to shooting. Now, as you can see, 2 ships now no longer have 100% fire line of sight on that target, meaning that now the firepower of your fleet is cut down to, you know, anywhere from 75% to only 50%. And that's where these two-dimensional formations go wrong. Not above or below, but to the sides. So if you give me one moment here, I'm going to go ahead and cut my recording. I'm going to reset, and I'm going to show you my little idea on how to get around this. Okay, so went ahead and shuffled things around here, and what you're now seeing in front of you is actually a modified version of what's referred to as the Finger 4 formation. This was actually an aircraft formation that was originally developed by the Finnish, but then adopted by the Germans during the Spanish Civil War, and actually became pretty common throughout the entirety of World War II. Now, the important part is not this overhead view that you're seeing here. The important part is what we'll see if we come down to the front. And you'll see that this is not a traditional Finger 4 formation, because all 4 ships here are staggered on different planes vertically. Now, the reason for this is this now eliminates the issue that we had in the flat plane formation. The fact that in that flat plane formation, you could get into situations where you had multiple ships that were being obscured by other ships. In this case, you'll only ever be in a situation where one ship is covered up, regardless of the angle that the enemy is coming in from. So this is going to reduce the amount of blind spots that you have and increase the total amount of firepower that you can get onto a single target. But let me actually demonstrate that for you. So once again, coming up to the top view, let's go ahead and see what happens whenever we take a whack at our flanking attackers here. As you can see, this time around, all 4 of our ships can now get their big guns to bear on that target. Now, this one here isn't really the important one, because as you know, this one here we could get 3 ships firing all their big guns at it. The dangerous one was this one here off to the far left. Now, this time with our staggered formation, let's see what happens. And as you can see in this time around, the enemy that's attacking from the far flank can now be threatened by all of the guns from all of the ships. Just from that vertical staggering. Now, as I said earlier, this sort of formation is not specific to these ships. You could do this with fighters. You can do this with battleships. The only ships that you can't really do with this are carriers, and that's just because carriers aren't intended to shoot at something. In fact, this can actually be done with even larger groups of ships. And this is what I mean. As you can see, you can put staggered squadrons within staggered squadrons to make them and put your entire fleet into those staggered boxes. So that way, no matter which way your enemy comes from or what direction you're attacking from, although you will periodically have ships obscuring other ships, this will greatly reduce the amount of that obscuring. So I'm not saying that this is going to win every single battle that you have, because obviously if everyone does this, then once again it comes down to personal commander skill. But these are just a little, this is just a little food for thought for whenever you're setting up, so that way, whenever, multiplayer is fixed in Space Engineers, and once we do get around to bringing, big fleets of, destroyers and cruisers and battleships and fighters all around, this will probably help you out a bit. So, are there better tactics out there? Possibly, probably. There are always better tactics, but at the very least, here's some basic groundwork to work with. So if you like this video, this might be something I may revisit. I may come back and talk about things like fleet composition or overall fleet movement tactics. So if you like the video, go ahead and pop it a like, subscribe if you want to see more. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and if you stay with me, I'll see you in the next video.